Now for some good news. Mary is a normal human being now. For real?
Say what?
Hello friends, trace amounts of science. Today we're right back into Married Mary, you know. I had to get that whole thing wrapped up and then, I don't know, I guess that'll be a good feel that we're on to what's next. But thank you for joining me today. As always, let's just crack this thing open and see what happens. The Harry one-off trailer and Married Mary / Funky P wrap-up, part number 2. Super duper, love to see it. Bangled, tangled, spangled, and spaghettied is what this part is called. I like that a lot. You put that on a t-shirt. Maybe we should. This is a mandatory plug for my fourth wall right at the beginning of the video. Look at all that merch. You love that merch, don't you? If you don't yet, then you will. Anyway, the Harry Summer might come out as a one-off. I'll write a trailer, and you guys tell me if it's worth posting the short story. Almost always the answer to that is yes. But I do understand if you'd want a wider range of opinions. From the weirdo who brought you Funky P-Beard and Married Mary comes the story of a summer musical brimming with soulful singing, delightful dancing, and horrifying heaps of human garbage. Get bangled, get tangled, get spangled, and get spaghettied. Cringy Val and perhaps ReddX Industries presents a Harry Summer and a Pearl Jam cocktail. Featuring Rob Schneider as a stapler.
He's about to find out that being a stapler is harder than it looks.
And co-starring Rob Schneider as a carrot.
I'm a carrot!
Well, I'm looking forward to the full release already. Here are the highlights. Scumbanger did something so vile and inappropriate, I'm not sure I can put it in writing without getting sued by an advocacy organization. Oh my. Then there was this bossy cast member who stank so badly, the guys had to use the girls' dressing rooms just so they could breathe without barfing. This Pong monster was a tall, glamorous, genuinely talented drag queen named Thomas. He was American, but his name was pronounced Thomas. To this day, he remains the only gay guy I've ever known who had a hygiene problem. Well, that is a mystery wrapped in a riddle, isn't it? I think he was just trying to keep other dudes away from his smooch hole. I only pitch. Okay, Thomas. And then there was this historical consultant who was supposed to be an expert on 1960s counterculture. This bozo couldn't have possibly been much older than 40, so his claims of having lived through the late 60s just meant that he was a wee one at most during that era. On top of that, he dyed his hair gray. And this was obvious because he had brown roots. It's so ridiculous. He dressed like Louis Skolnick from Revenge of the Nerds. He was obsessed with Richard Nixon, even though he should have been talking about LBJ. And he openly hated everything about modern pop culture. Imagine a non-wholesome, Nixon-obsessed Norman. Well, yes, that, but also he's grifting his way through his entire existence. Like, you just dress up like an old man to go into work, and then you come home and put on your cargo shorts with the pockets all filled with Mountain Dew and gummy bears. I don't know how these kids do things nowadays. I know how to pretend to be old. Maybe I should apply for that job. Also, the historical consultant loved younger women who enjoyed modern pop culture, and yet he made it his mission in life to capture us and teach us the error of our ways. Ah yes, how generous of him. I'm sure he wasn't expecting restitution in any form. He said, I am not a crook, but you are a cradle robber. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore music, movies, novels, fashion, all sorts of things that were before my time, but I also enjoy generationally appropriate pop culture, video games, shows like It's Always Sunny, modern musicals like Horrified Gasp, Hamilton. That doesn't make me a shallow moron, Norman. And I'm not gonna go near the mini museum in your basement, you creep. Nasty Norman got fired for sending Dion a sausage selfie where she said he even dyed his nether hairs gray. That's so weird. Come on. I'm super glad they got rid of that dude. That's a boatload of problems. Even before the unrequested picture in question. And then, of course, there were Mary's inappropriate and illegal behavior when she came to the show. Big titty privilege kept her out of jail, but she enjoyed running around making up stories about having done hard time and having swapped snail trails with her celly. Yeah, women's prison, right? It's probably just like one long hen night in there. No, I'm pretty sure it's pretty bad in some places. Mary continued to write love letters to her prison wife long after she was released. That was probably a healthier marriage than a real one, to be honest. And remember, Mary never got arrested at all, but she wrote real letters and sent them to someone, somewhere, in some slammer. Sure, whatever. Prison pen pal's not on my bucket list, but you like what you like. Because I began writing this section with the intention of connecting Married Mary to Funky P, allow me to spit out an observation. Funky, according to the tales I heard from the remaining chummers in the Shadowrun crew, was indeed a tall, bearded bump on a log who basically just did Maury's bidding, and engaged in excessive grumbling over trivial matters, namely the attractiveness of other men, during the formative years of the gaming session. He only occasionally lost his temper, but he seemed to become considerably more aggressive around the time of his dalliance with Mary. Why is that? Well, while Funky never spoke of his feelings regarding Mary's ensnarement of his tantalizing tallywhacker, I suspect that he felt somewhat emasculated by her ability to exert control over him, and Mary was indeed a ferocious force when she wanted something, and oh my god, she always wanted something. But I also think that Funky was taking notes while she was bossing him around. The pitiful crying, the yelling, the tantrums, the constant scrutiny, and the keeping of tabs. I think he picked up a fair amount of manipulation tactics from her, and then managed to improve on them. Yes, namely with the threat of physical force. I mean, Married Mary's exhausting, but nothing compared to the degeneracy that is Funky P. Beard. So did Mary create Funky? I don't think so. I think Funky was fucked up long before Mary started grinding on him at the Imp, but I think she facilitated certain elements of the goblinization, namely the manipulation. She served as both baggage and inspiration. I don't know, Dennis might have done something similar for me. He was obviously baggage, but his inconsistent attention, instead of making me more considerate of other person's time and feelings, it made me more inclined to be distant. To this day, I catch myself pulling away when I realize that I've got feelings for someone. Not because I'm scared of getting hurt, but because that behavior was modeled for me during an impressionable time period of my life. I can usually override that terrible tendency and communicate like a fucking adult, but the instinct to go radio silent as soon as feelings emerge got its hooks in there real deep. I'm not proud of it, and I'll continue to work on it. Well, good for you. See, you gotta know your own faults a little bit. And then everybody's like, well, what are your faults, ReddX? And I'm like, oh, me? I don't have any. I'm too humble. That's probably just the only one. Anyway, so when I began to think of pre-funky whiskey as a legitimately dateable dude, I pulled away. Remember that I was fresh out of the Dennis debacle at that point, but when I did pull away, I think that thrilled pre-funky whiskey. I wasn't blowing up his phone, wasn't camping out on his doorstep, wasn't whining for his attention, so our respective pseudo-exes messed us up in a way that made us initially compatible. Do I blame them? Hell yeah, I blame them! Dennis was a piece of crap, and Mary was batshit crazy. Do I honestly blame them? Not really. The whole mess was a runny, undercooked casserole of bad experiences serving as the ingredients for even worse experiences, and bad decisions getting smothered in the gritty goo of truly atrocious decisions. So, let's see what happened when summer ended, and Mary decided to pick on Funky one more time. I know you're joking about the whole blame the exes thing, but it's so easy to blame the exes. So much baggage can go with the exes that you don't see anymore. Although you gotta be careful, maybe there was some legitimate criticism in there. Some nugget of wisdom that could change your next relationship in a way that you can't quite consider yet. Anyway, things had begun to simmer down, but Mary just had to stir up some drama by making Funky a Pearl Jam cocktail at Filthy McNasty's. He ran crying to me over this heinous slight, even though this all happened during our one and only bona fide break. And he lured me back into his life with his feigned emotional distress, assuring me that he just needed a friend. Nasty Norman had turned his creepy old guy wannabe energy toward me after the show closed, and Funky offered to pose as my boyfriend a few times in an effort to discourage Norman. Somewhere along the line, it ceased to be an act. I'll give Funky that. He knew how to use creeps and flakes in order to prop himself up. I'm embarrassed that it worked on me. My current solution is to stay far, far away from the creeps and the flakes, so there's not even an opportunity for a gallant nice guy TM to offer his services. So yeah, double win. Well, that's a foolproof plan if I've ever seen one. Be quick to turn away. I do the same thing. And then OP presumes an interjection from the audience, saying, wait, she was completely broken up with him, but she let it back in to keep some creepy guy away? Funky's the king of creeps. This has to be BS. OP had to want it on some level. Damn, I feel so warm and fuzzy when some snooty person just calls me out. I was an idiot. Funky was back to his gentleman act. He swore up and down that he was back on Zoloft and Paxil, and the idea of giving him a second chance seemed so romantic to me. Barf. Yeah, we don't really do second chances. You fucked it up, you're out. You know what I mean? Listen, guys, a love life can be messy when you haven't got it figured out yet. Even if you've studied attraction and rejection from an academic standpoint, getting personally mired in the chemicals and the confusion can make you rethink things. Plus, there's no one correct way to go about these things, nor is there a single standard trajectory with romance, be it good or bad. Were there times where I actually liked Funky? Yeah, duh. I already admitted that numerous times. Was I dumb for liking him? After the mask slipped? Well, yeah. I'm once again bending over backwards and cringing as I try like hell to own my fuck-ups. The secret to owning it, OP, is to not be defensive about it. People got some stuff to say, you're like, whatever, 2 fingers. It's my story, not yours. Just feel honored that I wrote it down for you.
I'm very sorry, and I apologize for the inconvenience of me not keeping up.
That's not to say you should be immune to constructive criticism, but the negative stuff, yeah. Water off a duck, man. I'm out here doing my own thing. I don't care. So once things began to feel dangerous with Funky, what could I have done differently? I spent a great deal of time asking myself this. I recently heard a mental health TikToker from the manosphere rant about how humans always have agency, even in the most seemingly hopeless situations. Therefore, what we illogical foids perceive as victim blaming is really just logical individuals encouraging us to use our agency. But the thing is, I never lost my agency with Funky. In fact, I often doubled down on it, but my agency became impotent, just like Funky's precious peen. My words fell on deaf ears. He assigned nefarious intentions to even the most innocuous actions. Oh, why are you making coffee? Are you imagining sometime when you had coffee with one of your pretty boy douchebag exes? No, dude. I just wanted a cup of coffee. Bullshit! And then a screaming match would ensue. Christ, how do you live like this, walking around on eggshells? In retrospect, I could have definitely gone to Mad Mox for help. I could have gone to the university and asked them to place another call to social services. Could have gone to one of my professors and asked them to put me in touch with someone who specialized in helping people out of coercive control situations. But even though we had briefly touched on coercive control in one of my classes, I wouldn't admit that Funky was doing that shit to me until I looked back on the relationship with nothing to prove to myself. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Victims of all sorts of things often rationalize it to themselves. The truth was that I was humiliated to have even been in that situation. Since I was a psych grad student, I felt like I should have known better. That's why I get so bristly when people leave comments that call my intelligence and my credentials into question, haughtily stating that, "Whew, I should have known better." I know they probably think they're making an insightful observation or calling me out on some bullshit, but try taking a beat and asking around a little before you make a laughable attempt to mansplain my field to me. Surely you know someone who knows someone in the mental health field. God, mansplain. I hate mansplain. Are we sure all of these commenters were men? I will admit this much. Sometimes forgiveness and understanding is lost in the bloodlusted pursuit for justice. Even if essentially we are just chasing ghosts from a Reddit story. Whatever. You'll quickly see that it's not at all uncommon for individuals in every corner of the mental health profession to have been victims of some sort of maltreatment. Yes, even after having completed grad school, an internship, a fellowship, med school, or even decades of practice. It's not something that many mental health professionals talk about openly, primarily because it's unprofessional to unload your personal problems within a psychoeducation context. But also, many mental health professionals are hesitant to admit to being victims because of the a-holes, like the ones who have graced many a comment section with their astute observations. I'm not writing the story as a mental health professional. I'm writing it as a theater nerd who happened to be studying psychology and encountered some exceptionally odd individuals who did some truly bizarre things. I honestly thought it would be funny. Now I almost regret not throwing some distortion on my grad school experience and claiming to have been studying Russian literature, or Assyriology, or biomimicry. Yeah, well, don't let it get you down. Focus on the positive comments instead of the negative ones. Negative ones are just wasted energy. OP continues, this is my personal truth. If I hadn't been so ashamed of myself for trusting the wrong person and getting in way over my head years before I had actually completed my therapist training, I would have probably reached out for help as soon as the mask slipped. And after I finally got away, I had to work through the shame of letting it go on for as long as it did. The shame of not reaching out when I could have, and the shame of getting trapped in an unhealthy relationship in the first place. I can't go back to that place. I took my time writing this story, and I thought I'd been careful to very clearly acknowledge when and where I'd made mistakes, and to share what would have been a more appropriate choice or action, and perhaps I failed in that. I don't think that's the case. The chronology is the entire problem. If Married Mary had come first, then I wouldn't be screaming at the top of my lungs to stay away from Funky P. OP continues, I get salty about this BS because it was obviously an exceptionally hurtful thing when I realized that not only do these people despise me, a complete stranger, so much that they're willing to insult my ability to understand my field, but they also have unreasonable expectations of mental health professionals in general. Guess what? We're human. We fuck up. So do doctors and lawyers and cops. I'll say it again. Insulting someone in the mental health field for getting played by a uniquely demented individual is tantamount to insulting a medical doctor for getting sick. I mean, we are waxing pretty poetic here, but that was a good analogy. I take some small comfort in the fact that every time I come across one of these astute comments describing why and how I was an idiot and why I'm not to be believed, the wording is usually awkward, the punctuation's non-existent, and whatever astute observation they thought they were making just gets lost in some ignorant-ass ramblings of some dipshit yelling unintelligibly from a top-mount stupid. Yeah, you got me. I'm gonna put the salt shaker down in just a moment, I promise. If you lack the empathy and emotional intelligence to understand why some of you egregiously crossed the line, I'm not the right person to explain it to you. And this isn't about me being personally butthurt. Don't get me wrong, I did get offended, even though I repeatedly promised myself I wouldn't. The internet is a lot nastier than I realized. Well, ain't that the truth? I don't know, after a certain amount of times, eventually you're forged in fire. And somebody says, I hate you. And I'm like, well, it's not for everybody. You know? Just let it roll off your back, I'm saying. But OP's counterpoint is, I won't just let it go. Because of the harm that you people could be doing to others if you make a habit of insulting the intelligence and sanity of people who have been maltreated, reused, or used. And now some supercilious farquad's gonna say, yeah, but... And then some ignorant-ass drivel's gonna spill into the comment section, go nuts! It's good for the algorithm. Hey, ain't that the truth? But the comments I'd rather get are more positive, so tell me which ice cream you like between these, okay? You got SpongeBob, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or Batman. Or Peppa Pig, too, I guess. While we're making up ice creams. See what I did there? Perfect distraction. Got him. Oh, he's dumb. I mean, she knew and she stayed, so she got what was cumin to her. How self-loathing was it? Funky date so long. Can't even feel sorry for her. Psych study should make you smarter and gets you good at spotting narcissists. I don't understand whatever Gladys poster claims to be now. And I hop my wise words make her realize she kinda doom. It's barely an exaggeration. Spank that algorithm with your wisdom, you staggeringly intellectual people. How could I ever hope to understand what you're trying to say to me? You're speaking far too above my head. Yeah, totally. Anyway, I like the Batman one because I really like to feel heroic. And I really like to chew bubble gum. Perfect deflection. Works every time. Okay, what was that? My third dash of salt. I really am done now. And I'm pretty sure there's still plenty of salt left over for the hot dog man. Don't consume that. That's how you get kidney stones. As irritated as I was with the supercilious morons throughout the airings of these readings, I was elated by the kindred spirits who said supportive things. I'm working on a Reddit post highlighting the wonderful strangers I've encountered on this journey, so let's get back on track. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, hindsight's 2020. I learned a hard lesson and, for better or worse, decided to share it all. Warts and all! Not genital warts, I just mean I tried really hard to own it where I fucked up. No offense meant, OP, but you gotta own it harder. You gotta say it with your chest. You feel however you need to feel about my lived experience. I don't give a fuck. Anyway, now continuing on into a section of the post titled, Where Are They Now? These sections are always nice to see how people have progressed or devolved. I'll kick things off with some dirt on Dennis. I hadn't thought about him in years. We remained Facebook friends, but never had any meaningful exchanges. And then one day, out of nowhere, I got a very long DM from him. He apologized profusely for his behavior in grad school, admitted that he knew that he had broken my heart, and he insisted that we should meet for drinks when I was back in California on business. Drinks? I thought Dennis didn't drink. Maybe that accidental shot to tequila steered him away from the loud and down the sinful path of the bottle. Then again, when was Dennis ever honest with me or with himself? Never. Yeah, I think there's ulterior motive to that. Tiger never truly changes its stripes, you know? He was just reminiscing about what was, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna write her a Facebook message. Sure, cool, that usually goes great. I should probably mention that Funky had hacked into my laptop, copied my diary, and posted it online in its entirety while we were dating. So Dennis had gotten to read my terrible Carrie Bradshaw impression, in which he was the Mr. Big character.
I couldn't help but wonder, are men just women with balls?
I mean, I never watched the show before, but I couldn't help but wonder. I couldn't help but wonder how could a grown man who loved to study human behavior, fail to muster the courage to meet the eyes that had looked upon his nude body the night before. Ugh. That's OP's ugh. I personally think it's written in a much more interesting way than like, yeah, we banged and then he didn't look at me after. And when I arrived with some trepidation at the hotel bar, oh no, you're supposed to leave him on red. Oh well, here we go again.
Oh shit, here we go again.
I couldn't spot the golden god, but then A man in a snazzy suit, with a mighty beer gut and an unflattering goatee, tripped my fusiform facial area. Being a bit of a short king, his frame didn't exactly allow him to rock the beer gut. So apparently it was the beer can, not the tequila bottle, that had corrupted, douchey, duplicitous, oh so dashing, butt-blasting Dennis. See, look at him out here, end of his rope. He knows mating season's almost over for him. Now he just wants to do one last sweep. Does anybody want to settle for me? Please? Hilarious. Despite the booming beer gut and the hideous facial fuzz, Dennis put on a cocksure and flirtatious air straight away, and was shocked when I wasn't receptive. Well, I'm shocked that you showed up at all. OP's shocked that Dennis looks like shit. What can I say? Time is cruel. Looks like the Dennis system won't work forever. And it wasn't the weight and the awful goatee that made the thought of bedding the menace uninteresting. It was the fact that I had bedded Axton. It was one of those unicorn situations where the reality exceeded the expectation to an extent that I feel slightly uncomfortable describing it. There was no way in hell that Dennis could compare. Axton, at his most basic, could fuck circles around Dennis at his peak. Yeah, that is a thing that matters. That's why you gotta get some physical fitness in, you know? Toss her around a little bit. It's getting too wild, all right. The menace nevertheless started spamming me with long, inappropriate, saccharine text messages. I see exactly what this is. God. No sausage selfies, fortunately. Just half-hearted apologies, vague declarations of love, and then paragraphs upon paragraphs of cringe-worthy erotica that seem to have been copied and pasted from an old fanfic forum full of filthy-minded freaks. Yeah, there's a few of them out there. I'm gonna put my money on FetLife, because that's the one we mentioned in those SCP Deep Dive Controversy videos. Have you seen those yet? You should check them out, please and thanks. Truth was, no one could ever build palaces out of those paragraphs, let alone cathedrals. Burn, bitch! How the mighty fall. And indeed, it's always pride that cometh before the fall. Now let's move on to Mo. Funky's tasteless smear campaign had absolutely no effect on Mo's ways, for the record. Another altruism fail for Funky. The last time I bumped into Mo, he was throwing a temper tantrum because an extremely inebriated, much younger woman had called her girlfriend to pick her up instead of getting into the car with him. Dude, that guy needs to be, like, chemically castrated or something. I don't know. He was wearing baggy jeans, a Vulcan Science Academy hockey jersey, some bizarre medallion, ridiculous kicks, fake freckles, most of which got lost in his wrinkles, and a sideways baseball cap.
Forward and backwards is fantastic, but anything in between, run for the hills, because that's a psychopath.
Who wears that shit sideways? What are you talking about? Fake freckles and a sonotube medallion? Oh my god. He's got off the deep end. Mo had made a terrible attempt to paint his fingernails. I think he currently has a live stream where he talks about tarot cards and love spells, and he apparently pays escorts to appear on these streams. To my knowledge, Mo has never actually harmed anyone, but all signs point to him continuing to be a creepazoid. Yeah, Mo's a total freak. I hope eventually an older brother or a dad shows up and just, shows him the error of his ways. Now, for some good news. Mary is a normal human being now. For real?
Say what?
She spent at least a year in a mental health facility where she was obviously an active participant in her own recovery because the treatment seemed to do a world of good. I'm not super close to her anymore, but she was well-mannered and pleasant the last time I saw her. I honestly had a good time catching up with her. She's lost a bunch of weight and is now as gorgeous as she believed herself to be during the events of the story. Well, God, that seems like a whole lot of change in a little amount of time, but yeah, it seems like she put in the work. Good for you, Mary. You deserve it. Still probably some neuroses deep down in there. I don't know if I want to hang out on the reg, but you're normal, and that's half the battle. I didn't want to put too much emphasis on the weight. She was obnoxious during the Married Mary saga, primarily because of her behavior. And even though it can come off as cringy, I have some degree of admiration for women who can strut their stuff no matter their size. If I get so much as some mild monthly bloating, you can bet I'll be wearing oversized sweatshirts. Anyway, Married Mary is re-married Mary, and she seems genuinely smitten with her new hubby. So let's all give her a big round of applause for doing the work and embracing some personal growth. Way to go, girl. But please stop talking about your golden shower from the golden god. You're more than a big-tittied urinal cake. Plus, it's gross. I mean, for most people, it's gross. There's a tiny portion of the population that's into it, but I'm not going to bet that that's any of us.
Look at us. Look at us. Huh? Who would have thought? Not me.
Please. Stand up off the asphalt of the parking lot, towel yourself off, and then lay back down, because number 2's on its way. It's disgusting. As for Funky, well, his ass was in jail. Prison. It's difficult to explain what landed him there because mentions of the specific crime that he committed are frowned upon under any and all circumstances, so I'll be vague. A few years after I escaped, he sloppily photoshopped some poor dude's face onto some truly vile images in an unsuccessful effort to frame the poor dude. Then he posted these images all over social media, and he got busted for distributing that. Bro, that's about the lamest fucking thing you could ever go to prison for, Oh my god. For whatever reason, he didn't stay in prison for very long, and he's once again a free beard. I mean, yeah, he probably didn't get much time. The nature of the crime and that. Like, it's gross, disgusting, degenerate, but it wasn't the dude's actual face and whatever. I give him 6 months. OP says, I have no contact with him. I have no desire to know more about his current situation, and I don't think I'd even recognize him if I saw him. Since he was probably made to shave in prison, well, the insane height might make me suspect that it was him. I honestly don't know what the dude's actual face looks like. He might be handsome. Doubt it, though. But for the sake of those close to him, I do hope that he finds a way to explore the roots of his rage. I'm just not sure what it would take to convince him to consider the possibility that his various vicious attacks are not, in fact, acts of altruism. He's just looking for an excuse to feed his ego is what it really is. And now feels like a good time to reveal the single most shocking truth about Funky. He was well endowed. Why was he so insecure about the size of his member? Well, maybe because its largeness made the Whiskey Willy worse, since there was more surface area for the reduced blood flow to quite literally let down. Maybe he watched too much adult anime and felt itty-bitty in comparison to those cartoon dongs. Maybe he's just generally an insecure person. I have no idea, but it's weird, right? He positively oozed small peepee energy. Well, ain't that a pity? Maury, according to reliable sources, is now running a small cult, a kink retreat in Hawaii. I never got to know Maury well enough to develop a deep dive into his psyche. Weird and power-hungry as he appeared, he never struck me as cruel. But it seemed that his monkey shines were exceptionally off-putting to some people, and I do apologize if I crossed the line by writing about staff shenanigans. I personally wasn't bothered by it, but as I've said many times, I've apparently encountered more nasty situations than the average person, so my grossometer might need some recalibrating. Yeah, we could do that. We could do that here at ReddX Industries. That's fine. In-house. I only charge you a couple grand. How's that sound? As a person who, believe it or not, takes writing seriously, I'll certainly take the negative responses into account if I ever decided to try and spin this story into something resembling a book. Maury played an integral role in my escape by putting Funky in his place just enough to give me the upper hand for a moment, so I feel horrible for accidentally writing him as nothing but a loathsome perv. I mean, he was weird as hell, but he was also nuanced, as most people are, I suppose. I think I failed at getting all that across. Then again, I feel like some people really enjoyed Maury, so I suppose it's fun to have a divisive character in your story. I'll have some pros and cons to weigh here. Yeah, I thought he was pretty gross at first, but then by the end, actually I was still pretty suspicious of him. People who seek power like that, you can't trust them. Not to mention the indisputable fact that rich people are basically always some degree of weird. But let's move on to the guy who got a universally good reaction. Snorlax. Hey! Snorlax married a girl named Evie, and I still see them together fairly regularly to play non-degenerate games of Shadowrun at the vintage gaming shop that Sage and Athena intend to take over when the current owner retires. Oh, and Snorlax's physical therapy eventually got him back in the ring, and he is a mound of pure, intimidating muscle again. Still smokes the devil's lettuce, but in moderation. Sage and Athena got married a few years after the events of the story, and they got a couple adorable kiddos. Axton remains one of my dearest friends in the world, even though we never really became a couple. Well, I like that. It sounds like good news for everybody. I was worried that people would be annoyed with me for including a romantic subplot in the Funky P story, and then I was worried that people would be mad because Axton and I didn't get married and have babies, but I think I was once again worried about imaginary critics. Yeah, absolutely. Life's not a fucking Hollywood movie, okay? The two people that you like, they don't always get together. Sorry. I'll reiterate what I said in the afterword of Funky P Beard. I'm genuinely happy to be single. Some of us are just wired that way. I love Axton to the moon and back, but I don't think I would love him so much if we tried to force a labeled relationship that wasn't happening naturally. So let's move on to the non-beardy people from the Married Mary saga. They've been through some rough stuff that's really not my place to share, but they've all landed on their feet. I'm currently gathering my costume for Lucy's daughter's birthday party. Yeah, I still do the party princess thing. I doubt I'll ever stop donning costumes for kids' parties, even if I eventually have to switch it up to dressing like Disney villains when I get too old to pass for a princess. Is there an opportunity for some social commentary about ageism? Yeah, probably. Go nuts in the comments. I mean, you guys can do that if you want. I don't have much to say about it. People get old. Fuck you want from me? Thank you so much for reading. I know I've said it before, but I don't have the words to express how much it means to me when anyone is able to power through tales of my bizarre experiences, even if those experiences aren't relatable. If you made it, I have endless admiration for your patience. Extra special thanks to ReddX for lending his voice and his hysterically funny and insightful commentary to these stories. Without the videos, Funky P and Married Mary would just be a bunch of impotent words disintegrating in the dumpsters of publishing houses or bleakly existing in the void of an unvisited blog. To ReddX and the entire ReddX gang, you guys are legends for breathing life into these stories. Yeah, just wait until AI video generation reaches its zenith and I can go back and animate every part of it. As for me, I'm certainly no legend, but I am a functional, content human being with a fabulous family and plenty of friends who love and accept me despite my past foolishness. Yeah, so why does it matter what some fuckers online said? My life is far from perfect, but I'm still perky and free-spirited. Funky didn't take that away. And for whatever it's worth, I never got duped by another neckbeard following the Funky farce, although quite a few have tried. I'm a little weird. I'm not particularly bothered by weirdness in others, and that sometimes makes me beard bait. I know that. So whenever I clock a warning sign of beardery, I slowly back away from the impending drama, smoke a bowl, and laugh it off, so to speak. I'm just saying, I'm trying to be more like Snorlax. Indeed, he's my spirit animal after all. And so the time has come for me to slowly back away from this story. It's been a labor of love and a healing exercise to write this, but it might have felt like a chore to read or listen to it. If any manner of badness was painful to read or listen to, well, I regret that. I tried to make this an entertaining ride, but I can certainly understand why it might not be universally relatable, and I probably could have done a better job of explaining what made me feel trapped in the relationship with Funky if I had been willing to take a big steamy trauma dump on the internet. I'm hoping this installment was more of a trauma shart, so now I wipe away the skid marks and flush the remnants of Funky down the toilet. Well, it sounds like the people that deserve to suffer, at least in some capacity. But indeed, it is a wrap-up more than like a grand finale with a bang or something. People just go on about their lives. It's not a Hollywood movie. Not everything gets a nice resolution like that. And somehow that makes it more human. Somehow that makes me like it even more. But even beyond this post, what is next for OP? Well, she has this post to explain it all. It's time to leave, Married Mary. Change of plans. I'm done with my sophomore slump. It just feels icky to me now. I'll be back with a story about nasty, tiny mustache man Norman, scumbanger engaging in some wildly inappropriate smashing, not with me, a malodorous drag queen, Wolf the butt blaster, not to be confused with Dennis, although they did know each other, and Married Mary's violation of the law.
Stop! You violated the law. Pay the court a fine or serve your sentence.
I'm back into the burlesque and musical theater after a fairly long stint under the thumb of physical illness, so my focus is elsewhere right now, but I do find time to write here and there. So I'll post some fresh cringe when it's ready, and the story is from an omniscient POV. I'm not a main character, so I don't talk about my feelings at all, and I think that'll play better with the audience who's not really here to connect, but to laugh at some human garbage. I get it now. Well, thank you for unpacking all that for me. We do like to connect a little bit, but I get it. It leaves you exposed. I solemnly swear to deliver several repulsive species of human garbage to you in due time. I feel pretty confident that you guys will love to hate nasty, tiny mustache man Norman, because he's super cringe. We did get a taste of that, didn't we? I'm also going to have to get the scumbanger subplot cleared with ReddX Industries lawyers. I don't want an advocacy group organization suing anybody. That is to say, Scumbanger should probably be in jail. Well, that's a hell of a cliffhanger, so we're not done with the cinematic universe quite yet, and that does my heart well. I look forward to what's next, and I look forward to you guys checking out my, fourth wall, so you can check out my merch and my whatnots. We've also got Patreon, YouTube memberships. If you want to connect with me a little bit more, I'd more than welcome it in exchange for some dollary dues. Even if you don't got it, I'd probably say what's up to you. Come on through the Discord. It's gonna be fine. However, I do want you to remember, friends, that you are loved, you are worthy, you definitely deserve it, and I shall see you in the next one. So until then, bye-bye.